first time that our scientists realised that that our power supply on planet Earth could be affected by the sun.
Yeah.
And we had this huge, there was 195 solar flares, 11 of them the most classified, what they call the X rating on these solar flares.
Yeah, yeah.
We had auroras that were seen in parts of the world that had never seen auroras before. And then since this time, the activity of the sun has just increased and increased.
Yeah.
And even at times of solar minimum, scientists are now very wary of the sun, and there are an armada of spacecraft out there watching the sun.
Yeah.
They're literally just parked up in space, monitoring the behavior of the sun. And what I've said is that we're actually seeing fulfillment of Mayan prophecy. I believe that they said that the New Age, which will start officially in 2012, they say the New Age will be dominated by space. And now we have this phenomena of space weather.
Yeah.
Literally, this constant bombardment of, cosmic energy, galactic energy, cosmic rays, the sun. This is space weather. And it's affecting, and it's actually, I believe it's actually driving evolutionary change. And so to explain this, I have to explain plasma physics. So the book is, I have to teach because we're not being taught this through the mainstream. So I have to go and find the alternative theories that explain how this works.
Yeah.
And so I basically provide enough information to explain why I believe the things that I believe, and why I can teach the things that I'm teaching. And so I teach the fact that space is not empty. It's actually full of plasma. The sun is a huge ball of plasma. Our scientists say that there's actually a network out in space, and it's basically like an electricity grid.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and the particles are actually moving through these grids. In fact, we actually have scientific reports that talks about tubes of light. Out there's a whole network, and so what I'm telling people is that there is a massive change in the electrical environment of our solar system.
And
there's
this...
many things happening, and I believe that this time of change has been prophesied, and so I explain it step by step in my book, because there's a lot of concepts, there's a lot of things happening, and I think hopefully the book will actually explain to people why we're seeing so many odd things happening now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have to teach the fact that, especially the Russians, they don't believe, they have alternative theories for where tornadoes come from, where hurricanes come from, what drives our weather. And obviously now our scientists are seeing the connection between what goes on the sun and what's actually happening with our weather.
Indeed, and
okay?
There's absolutely.
So you have to. The book has to basically start to change the paradigm of our understanding.
Yeah. One thing that comes to mind is we had. A while back we had Donald E. Scott on the show talking about his book The Electric Sky, and he goes into...
Oh, you had Don Scott on the show, did you?
Yeah, indeed, and he talks
about...
Yeah, absolutely. Talks about the whole electrical universe theory, basically. And I guess this then is something that you incorporate a lot in your work, right?
I had to, yes, and because quite frankly I believe that it helps to explain so much of what we're seeing. And yes, I actually quote from Professor Don Scott, and I actually give them thanks at the beginning of my book for their understanding of the electric universe, because it helped me to interpret the metaphysical messages that we were also being given at this time as well about what's actually happening. So yes, I actually explain as much as I needed to, because obviously Professor Don Scott is an expert, and I needed to provide enough information to explain why I was saying that there was changes taking place in our solar system. I felt I just needed to provide enough information.
Yeah, and it feels in a way like the mainstream is capable of reporting on these issues as they become known, such as even though there are at the moment not being brought forward with great attention in the mainstream, but nonetheless there are reports, for example, from NASA and from the European Space Agency and stuff like this, that there actually is seems to be a lot of energy coming into the universe, into our solar system, and also of course that the consequence of this is not only global warming on our own planet, but on many different planets throughout the entire solar system, right?
That's correct, actually, and this is actually very interesting because this is now going into the mainstream, understanding that I feel there is a resistance with people with this global warming, and for many good reasons for that as well. And so people are citing the evidence, and I did the same thing in my book as well, to talk about the different planets, what was going on, the fact that there's been massive changes in atmospheric changes on planets like Venus and other planets as well. Mars. I mean, they sent an actual probe to Mars, and it was actually destroyed because the atmospheric density had actually doubled since the probe's been there before.
Yeah.
So it's very important, I think, for people to actually understand that there is data that that actually details this, and to actually tell people where to go to actually find the information. What I did in my book was very briefly, gave the main points of the changes, and then the people that have actually done the work, done the research. And in my book, I have hundreds and hundreds of references. My book is a study guide, and the idea is for people not just to believe what I say, but to be able to go and check out what I'm saying as well, because there's so much happening, and to be able to integrate this, you have to actually do some work.
Indeed, absolutely, of course. Do you know where the energy comes from then? Because if let's say like this before we go there. Is the energy only coming from our sun, or is this a galactic or even universal
phenomenon? I
phenomenon?
believe it's coming from the galactic center. That's what I believe, and right. I also feel that what we've been told is that we're actually now in a different region of space. As our solar system travels through the galactic arms, or actually, through the galaxy, we've actually come to a point. It's like a crossroads, and at this point, the energies travel much faster from the galactic center. It's almost like a spoke on a wheel. And I actually believe, it's not actually mentioned in my book, I'm going to update the book, but I actually feel that we have research that clarifies this, that not all the planets are moving in the same directions. They're not all moving around the galactic center. Some of the planets and stars are actually moving inwards towards the galactic center. And I believe that this knowledge has been kept in sort of esoteric traditions. They talk about the solar cross, the galactic cross, and I actually believe that we are at this point. And the fact that this information was held and retained means that it's actually quite an important time that we're actually living in now.
Indeed, and I mean, I can think back just a few days ago, we had another report stating that the peak of the next solar cycle is going to be around the time that you actually mentioned now, with the end of the Mayan calendar. Around there is speculation, of course, but around 2011, 2012, up to 2013, something like that. So,
apparently the start of the next solar cycle has been delayed. It's up to 1 year late. And now they're saying end of 2011, mid-2012, which is really interesting.
Isn't it? Yeah.
And also NASA have been predicting that we're going to get a much greater activity from the sun. They're predicting 30 to 50% more active. And because we live in such a technological world now, we have a lot of satellite communications, we have GPS, they are actually quite concerned about what's going to actually happen. So there has been warnings being sent out of concern for what's going to happen at the peak of the next solar cycle.
Indeed, and if we are to talk about that a little bit, do you think that the the sun, because as you say, the myth or the legend is, that we're going from the fourth sun, I think, into the fifth. And do you think that this is a renewal process of the sun, or is it only going to change its polarity? Any ideas about this? What actually is going to happen with the sun?
I feel that we're actually moving into a new time, and that it's a time of cleansing, a renewal. I think it's a change. I actually feel that it could have gone either way, actually, to be honest. I feel that it's time now where the energies will actually affect our evolution. And so this will be, I see it as an upgrade of all life on Earth, and also for human life as well. I also think that it possibly could have gone the other way, and that we could have had massive catastrophes and disaster on this planet as well. But I think that we will see change, and it will look pretty chaotic. But I feel that the outcome of this will be an evolutionary upgrade. It will be progress. I think that what I actually feel, to be honest, is that we've had teaching come through, but it hasn't really gone out as wide as it should have done. And these evolutionary energies have been coming, and they have not been taken up by humans. I feel that as I've interpreted metaphysical channeled messages and things like that, I feel that we were supposed to take on these evolutionary energies, and we haven't done that. And people haven't really understood what they were supposed to do. And so I feel that even though the electromagnetic grids of the Earth have been changed, they're not fully prepared for huge blasts of energy, which is what we're going to get. And so I think we are going to see some chaos.
Do you mean chaos as a geological upheaval, or chaos in people's lives personally?
I do. I see it as we're already seeing an increase of the earthquakes and also the volcanoes. I feel that we've had crop circle warnings. The crop circles, especially last year, there were certain messages which implied that we were going to be getting huge blasts of energy. And also the first one in the UK this year, that seemed to continue the theme. And I feel that I've interpreted some of the messages that we've had. I feel that 2007 is going to be a dramatic increase in these evolutionary energies, and we're not really ready for it. That's my honest opinion. We're not really ready.
Very interesting.
And so I felt tremendous urgency to explain to people what was happening. I see this as, I interpret this from studies that have been done about evolution, and the fact that energetic systems actually capture energy, and they use the energy to develop themselves. And I believe that's actually what's happening with the Earth, that as the Earth is being bombarded with energy, it's using it to transform. And I feel that everything on this planet is now in a process of transformation, including humans.
Interesting that you say crop circles. Also, a very interesting, phenomena, as it were. What do and any ideas of how these actually are created? These patterns, then? I mean, is it something external coming in, an energy that make these patterns? You think?
Are you talking about the crop circles now?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, in my research, I'm very sort of analytical. I mean, if someone shows me a video of something and I can make sense of the video, I tend to go with what I see.
Absolutely.
And we have videos taken of balls of light, these orbs, literally making the crop circles.
Indeed. Yeah.
Now, in my book, what I've done is I found information about, from various reports, about these orbs, these huge balls of light that have been seen in our atmosphere. I explain where they come from and the function that they've had, I believe, in working with the Earth. But I don't talk about crop circles in my book at all, but I do mention it on my website.
Yeah.
I feel that there is other forms of life Um,